Right, so now I think we'll call the meeting to order. And let me read out what I have to in front of me. This is a non-partisan, all-candidate forum, not a debate. The allowed time for a question to be asked will be 30 seconds. Once you've asked your question, don't remain at the microphone. Please return to your seat. There will be questions from the floor, not opinions. If you have an opinion, please contact the candidate directly following the forum. This bit is for me, I'm interested in it. The moderator, it's me, will have control of the forum, so please leave me with it. Okay? If the moderator feels that the question has been answered previously, we'll move on to another question. Each question can be directed to the specific candidate or all candidates. The moderator will have the option of asking all candidates to respond to a particular question. The candidate to whom the question has been directed will have a maximum of 2 minutes, but they don't need to use it. The moderator will then ask the question of the other candidate, who will have 2 minutes, and any rebuttal will be allowed, they'll be allowed 1 minute. And we'll endeavour to give all candidates an opportunity to respond to the questions. It's me up here on the timer. Dorothy's my timer. And you know what I'm like at timing. When I say I mean Okay, so we'll stick to that, shall we? So now we want to go ahead with the meeting, and we have to introduce Shirley Bond. How do you say hello to a screen? Wave or something. Shirley Bond is a Liberal candidate. Nathan Giede is a Conservative candidate. And Sherry Osagawara is the NDP candidate. You have 3 minutes for your opening remarks, and I think I have to introduce you first. First to go will be Shirley. I have here in front of me a small introduction. Shirley Bond has been the Liberal MLA candidate for Prince-George-Valemount for the past 12 years. Valemount is on the verge of some very exciting opportunities, including a world-class destination resort and finding new potential for the community forest. She lives in PG with her husband Bill and has twin children. Shirley.
Well, thank you very much. And I want to begin by, first of all, saying how grateful I am to everyone who has worked so hard to allow me to participate tonight. I want to thank Superintendent Pepper and Morris for being here on this end, helping me with the technology. I was on my way to Valemount earlier today, and unfortunately there was a very tragic accident just ahead of us, and the police actually had to close the road, and it has just opened in about the last half hour. It was a very, very tragic motor vehicle accident, it was a terrible accident. So I do appreciate the opportunity to participate, and I know everyone, including my two candidate colleagues, I appreciate their indulgence. I would have loved to have been there, and I'm very, very apologetic. I've been a resident of Northern British Columbia and Prince George for my entire life, and I love where I live. I've had the incredible privilege of serving as the MLA for Prince-George-Valemount for 12 years. And I know that during that period of time, there have been a large number of struggles that we have faced, not just in the Robson Valley, but in fact around the world. And we together have worked to try to find solutions. And while we haven't solved all of the issues that face the Robson Valley, and in particular Valemount, I'm very proud of the track record of working collaboratively and constructively, of listening and responding. And you just simply have to look around to see some of the results. The seniors affordable housing project that started, actually the idea started in Valemount. And we managed to take and listen to that idea, and that project was extended right across the province to other small, rural, and northern communities. I am a passionate believer in giving our children and grandchildren a better British Columbia than the one we inherited. We intend to control our spending. We intend to continue to move toward a debt-free British Columbia. So you're not seeing a lot of large promises that are attached to large sums of money. We know that British Columbia is better positioned than any other jurisdiction in North America as a result of good, strong fiscal governance. That's been endorsed recently by 3 international bond rating agencies who have said that British Columbia has managed well. Very recently, the Canadian Federation of Independent Business said that if you want to invest anywhere in North America and in Canada, you should choose British Columbia. Those recommendations don't come by accident. That pattern of prudent fiscal management, strong leadership, and making tough decisions needs to continue. We're on the verge of exciting opportunities in Valemount. I'm excited about the possibility of a destination mountain resort. All of you know how hard I've worked with you to bring that proposal to the stage that it's at today, and there are many other things we can contemplate. So thank you for allowing me to participate in this way, and certainly to Sherry and Nathan, I appreciate their indulgence. It's been a very emotional and difficult afternoon, and I appreciate you allowing me to participate with the use of video conferencing. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Shirley. And that's somewhat over time. So I don't want to set a precedent, but we'll give them a wee bit extra, shall we? When you see that amber light and you catch it out of the side of your eye, you've got 30 seconds to go. Okay? 1 minute to go. 1 minute to go. Okay.
Thank you.
That's fine. I'd like to now introduce Sherry Osagawara. Sherry is the new Democrat candidate for Prince-George-Valemount in the next provincial election. A 24-year resident of Prince George, a freelance broadcast journalist, dietitian, and small business owner. Sherry is an advocate for healthy northern living. Sherry currently resides in Prince George with her husband and their 3 children. Welcome, Sherry.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that you're able to join us, Shirley, this way, and I'm glad that you're okay. And thank you again. This is a great opportunity. This is something that's very important to all British Columbians, particularly here in the north, and especially in the Robson Valley and Valemount. This is a pivotal election, and I can't emphasize the importance of the decision that British Columbians are being asked to make on May 14th. So I am Sherry Osagawara. My full-time job is with Northern Health, and I'm a population health dietitian working in community and public service for the region. And it's nice to be back in the Robson Valley, and particularly in Valemount, as previously, because this part of the world has been in my region. I've been able to have opportunities to spend much time in both McBride and Valemount, and really enjoy coming out here, and so it's been a great opportunity to return. And as in the introduction, I'm also currently running a small business, and I'm also an active community volunteer, and have participated on many initiatives that I feel have made a difference in the lives of those folks who are able to take part in those services, of some of the organizations that I've been a part of. And I'm also a very strong advocate for working people and working folks. I'm running in this provincial election for the New Democrats because I have a strong commitment to the fact that I believe it's time for change. We need a government that shares your priorities. A government that puts the needs of northern families and of rural and remote communities first and foremost. We need a government that stands to a commitment to support sustainable resource development in forestry, in mining, in the resource sector, and also for green energy and green initiatives. One that makes targeted investments in skills training to make sure our kids and grandkids have a bright future while ensuring that business has a workforce well into the future. I look forward to being your strong voice for Valemount in the new government. I'm Shirley Osagawara, and I look forward to earning your vote on May the 14th.
Thank you, sir. We do not have a Green Party candidate here this evening because they have not yet filed the nomination paper. So unfortunately, we don't have that party. Our last candidate this evening is Nathan Giede. Nathan Giede is our BC Conservative candidate. Nathan has lived in Prince George all his life, and he just graduated from Trinity Western University with a BA in, naturally, political science. Nathan is excited for the opportunity to represent the people of Prince-George-Valemount, and he hopes to receive your vote on May the 14th. Welcome, Nathan.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Good evening, fellow British Columbians and distinguished guests. My name is Nathan Giede, and I am the BC Conservative candidate from Prince-George-Valemount. I am running to bring low taxes and better paying jobs to the north, and I hope you will help me stand up for Northern BC by voting for me on May 14th. The BC Conservatives have made standing up for Northern BC's families and businesses our top priority. We have announced funding for infrastructure, for skills and trades education, for arts and culture, and all of that is specifically to the north. Not for south of Hope, for north of Hope, because there is civilization north of Hope. These expenditures are not financed by new taxes and tolls, but by finding savings and efficiencies in government. We are the only party that is promising to not raise taxes. People have argued that there are three parties running in this province, and because there are three parties, the vote will split one way or another. I'm sorry, but that's just not true. There are only two choices in this election: tax and spend policies from my fellow candidates, the NDP and the Liberals, versus no tax increases from the BC Conservatives, including rolling back the carbon tax. As the only true free enterprise party in British Columbia, we are committed to rolling back the carbon tax, which has increased the cost of goods and services for all British Columbians. The Conservative Party is also committed in this province to paying back down the deficit through fiscal discipline and reductions in wasteful spending, like the Carbon Trust. And as the only representative party in each riding, the one that is trying to get your vote by being honest and accountable to you, we are committed to consulting with local communities about projects and opportunities first, and by those consultations come up with projects that benefit all of us. In closing, I am thankful for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I wish the best of luck to my fellow candidates, and I sincerely hope you vote for me, Nathan Giede of the BC Conservative Party, on May 14th, so that together you and I can bring back low taxes and better paying jobs to Northern British Columbia.
Right, that was interesting. Let's move on. Go into question time. I have here in front of me about 20 questions, but I'm looking for more. Shall we take one from the floor first? Has anybody got a question they'd like to direct? Mr. Newsy, could you use the microphone? Could you say who you are and who you're addressing the question to?
Tim Newsy, and I appreciate Shirley going right to mentioning change. That is a buzzword that's been around for 5 years. It's kind of magical, and I hold my breath. I'd like to know what change you're talking about. So I have a question about change specifically to Valemount and specifically to all rural areas of your riding. I'd like all three candidates to answer. What will you individually, not your government, you individually do to change the funding formula for education so that rural schools receive additional funds to keep teachers in the school, particularly at the high school level? Because the present funding formula is gutting our rural schools of qualified teachers.
And that was addressed to
All three.
all three. Did you hear that, Shirley? Did you hear the question?
I did hear it,
Oh, it
yes.
was quite clear, okay. Would you
Would you
like
like
to
me to
take
go
that one first?
I will. I cannot see the light, so I apologize if I was lengthy before I can't see it. So maybe you could just give me a little bit. That's awesome.
Okay.
Thank you for helping me. Thank you. Well, you know, certainly I have a history of defending rural schools in British Columbia and have spent a lot of time working on exactly the kinds of concerns that have been expressed. And in fact, while there may well need to be adjustments to the funding formula, today the funding formula is much different than it was when we first became government. In fact, there are additional funds attached in this formula to rural schools, and there are also additional funds provided to school districts who have rapidly declining enrollment. So in fact, we do try at this point to add additional dollars to those school districts that are facing declining enrollment. But I can certainly understand the concern of communities like Valemount and McBride and Dunster, Giscombe, other schools, other communities. Schools are the heart of communities, and we do need to find ways to ensure that schools remain viable. One of the things we've done is we have a learning, thank you.
You have 1 more minute.
Oh, okay, I thought that was the final blow.
No, that's, you get a wave at 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the accommodation. We've created a learning improvement fund that will exceed $200 million over 3 years, in fact, to look at the kinds of supports that schools and children, particularly those with special needs in smaller communities, need and deserve. So we need to continue to work hard, to be aggressive. I just recently was very proud to announce a new school for Giscombe. We managed to do that in partnership with School District 57, and we're going to continue to look for creative ways to support rural education.
Thank you, Shirley. Would you like to take that up, Nathan?
Yes, I would. Tim, thank you for that question. And I will tell you exactly how our party plans on solving it. You also said you wanted to see how it would be solved individually, yes? Individually, you have to go and advocate for that school. Individually, if your party is not elected, you have to be prepared to go to the floor and amidst all the talking points and all the yelling and screaming that happens in any kind of house of government, you have to be prepared to take it and say, look, this is about the kids first. It's not about the politics. It's not about the unions. It's about kids first. And the way that we put kids first is by making sure we're going to the local level with teachers and parents. And that is what the Conservatives want to do. The Conservatives, because John Cummins was an educator for several years, he knows what it means when you walk into a classroom and as parents, you're worried. You're worried that your kids aren't getting the resources they need. And maybe especially in a rural community, we're worried that are rural schools being funded well enough? Are declining enrollment? Does that mean this school will stay open? Declining enrollment should not be followed by more funding. It should have been the other way around. We should have more funding before there's declining enrollment. And part of the problem is that schools are funded in such a haphazard way. Some principals, some boards, they don't even know how much money they're going to get from the government until probably a few weeks into the school year. That's a serious issue, and John Cummins today announced a plan that will result in making sure that schools know their numbers before the school year starts so they can plan for that and teachers and parents can get back to what's important, educating our kids.
Thank you. Shirley?
Well, the issue of rural schools is an important one, and certainly funding formula plays a part in that. At this point in time, I know that as speaking on behalf of the party, that we don't have any commitments towards changing the funding formula, but certainly, again, through consultative processes, that definitely is something that can be entertained. And I say that then to answer the gentleman who asked the question more on behalf of a personal viewpoint. But if we think historically back, certainly with this Liberal government and our current Premier, Christy Clark, who served as Education Minister at the time when the Liberals took over government, the Liberals closed 190 schools across British Columbia, with many of those closures taking place in rural BC and rural communities. It's a flawed education funding model under the BC Liberals, and it needs to be reassessed, and that's definite. But again, there are issues that present challenges, such as declining enrollment. And I sat with the superintendent of schools in Prince George and talked about some of those issues, particularly facing Valemount. And as such, I mean, the school district is certainly committed to supporting the school here in Valemount, the school in other rural schools within the district. But as far as the party goes, we definitely have a commitment towards education, realizing that, again, rural schools are the backbone of communities and of creating economic stepping stones and ladders for students to seek better paying jobs to advance themselves. And so we've committed $100 million for support for teachers, particularly, support for librarians, which are very important in schools, and also support for special needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you happy, Mr. Newsy? Got some answers. You can speak afterwards if you want to carry on. I have a question here directed to Shirley. It doesn't say who it's written by. Doesn't matter. Can you clarify your position on the Valemount Glacier project? Your party, specifically your colleague Norm MacDonald, are on record for strongly opposing the Jumbo Glacier development proposed by Umberto M. That one. The same proponent for Valemount. This region needs a definitive position that is not politically motivated. How can we trust your party's position on Valemount when your party was adamantly opposed to Jumbo? And that's addressed to Shirley.
Okay, I think again, we're talking about two separate proposals. Yes, it's the same developer, and actually Umberto, I've been meeting with him since, for about a year and a half now, and watching the development of this project. And you're right, Norm MacDonald, whoever asked the question, who's our critic, was part of the initial process on Jumbo. But let's be clear, Jumbo was a different proposal than this proposal with the Glacier Destination project. Jumbo didn't have the full support of the local community, and that, I think, was one of the pivotal failing points in us being able to throw our strong support and our commitment behind it. Make no mistake, we're in total support of economic development for communities, and we're strong proponents of economic development and job creation, particularly for communities like Valemount, because this really represents a unique initiative. It represents a diversification in economies, and we've identified in this particular project that there is strong local support. The community is so behind this and really wants to see this happen. It's overwhelming in terms of the support. If government changes, the commitment that I have to share with you this evening is that we're going to keep with projects that have been previously committed to and discussions have taken place. Those will continue. There are no plans to get in the way of the interests of communities and of regional development. And quite frankly, I look forward to those next stages that are going to be forthcoming in this particular project. And I'm looking forward to a detailed analysis of the proposal, assessing its technical and economic feasibility, and determining the potential environmental impacts as well as impacts on existing forestry and recreation activities and First Nations consultations. So thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. I think I'm going to go ahead and ask one question from each person and we'll take it back to the floor. Is that all right? Because we've got quite a lot of questions up here. I have one for Shirley on healthcare. Shirley, what have you done to improve healthcare in the Robson Valley? And what will you do to continue improving our system?
Well, like the circumstances we face with schools, we need to be assured that in rural communities there are appropriate and adequate levels of healthcare provision. I was very pleased not long ago to be in Valemount to look at enhancements to the emergency area, to some of the staff spaces. There are a number of improvements that we've made. But I think from a broader perspective, one of the most important things that I've been concerned about is our ability to attract and retain professionals in small, rural, and northern communities in particular. We want to make sure that people have the opportunity to have a physician. We've put in place a new program that will help support individuals who do not currently have a doctor. But from a regional perspective, one of the ways that we've been able to help support communities like Valemount and McBride, we've actually, for the first time in British Columbia's history, begun to train doctors in northern British Columbia. And that allows us to keep students, to use them in their practicum programs up and down northern British Columbia. And we've also looked at training nurse practitioners, professionals, so that we can keep them working closer to home. Training those individuals in the north is essential, and those benefits spin off to communities like McBride, Valemount, Mackenzie, all of those smaller communities that need to recruit and retain professionals.
Thank you, Shirley. Nathan has a 1-minute rebuttal time.
I think it's very important to realize, I'll clarify something. My father's a doctor here in Prince George, has been a doctor here for over 20 years. I think it's important to clarify something, that it's actually, and I've spoken with my father on this on many occasions, we need to decentralize the medical system. UNBC, the medical school, and of course the research hospital that we have in Prince George, that's wonderful. But doctors and nurses are like any other workforce. They do what they are trained to do. When doctors and nurses are trained to go out into our communities, when doctors and nurses are trained to expect that there's going to be days where they're not going to make it back to Prince George every night, maybe I should take up residence somewhere else. That is a good thing. And doctors and nurses have to be trained to do that. My dad enjoys doing his locums. He lives permanently in Prince George, but he knows several doctors and nurses that are more than willing to work outside of Prince George and stay outside of Prince George if only that funding and the travel costs were there to allow for it.
Thank you, Nathan. I have a question here for Nathan himself, which says, the topic is government spending. Your party's platform mirrors the NDP's with overspending, leading to greater deficits and debt when you intend to spend 13.5 million over 5 years. Please explain how this reflects a fiscally responsible approach to garnering.
Can you repeat that number, please? Sorry.
13.5 billion.
30.5 billion.
13.5
billion. Oh, thank you. Thank you. First of all, that is not the number that I'm acquainted with regarding our party's platform. But to answer the question about deficits, I talked about it in the beginning. We currently have a deficit, a very large deficit, thanks to the Olympics, thanks to bad spending by the Liberals, that we need to tackle. And in tackling that deficit, we need to do it through patience. The other parties want to raise your taxes, especially actually raise your taxes on the people who provide services to this community and provide income in this community. I know that tourism is a big deal here and it's a big deal in McBride. And people bring their sleds out. High-income earners spend money on sleds. High-income earners spend money on quads. And they want to raise the taxes on those high-income earners because they want to pay down a deficit that they created with your money. The issue for us is that we don't want to see taxes go up. We want to roll back the carbon tax and allow, this government wants to allow all British Columbians, especially in rural areas, to get back to brass tacks, get back to basics, not worry about the income that they're going to be seeing, the bottom line that's going to have a problem. I'm really excited for that, and I'm really excited to see that in our deficit spending, which we will not have to the tune that you've seen there, that we are going to move forward with paying off this deficit with patience.
Thank you, Nathan. Shirley would like to have a minute there.
Well, thank you, and Nathan, this is the second time you said that. I just need to clarify that we have made a commitment to freeze personal income taxes for 5 years. It's in our platform. I can bring the page number. I don't have the platform in front of me.
I'd like that.
We've also, pardon me?
No, sorry.
We've also agreed to freeze the carbon tax. We do believe that there is value in ensuring that we are being considerate about the environment. We know that the carbon tax has had an impact in northern British Columbia. That's why we exempted home heating fuel. But we also recognize that at this point in time, we wanted to freeze the carbon tax. We will be doing that for 5 years as well, to allow other jurisdictions in North America to actually catch up with the leading edge green agenda that we put in place.
Thank you, Shirley. Shall we move on? Does anybody else have one question from the floor, Peter? Mr. Fox.
Thank you.
Closer to the mic.
Speak into the mic.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. And my question goes to Mr. I shouldn't say Colin, goes to Nathan. Your party platform of tax cutting to enable a strong economy here, and presumably to assure a good income for seniors, for the disabled, for school teachers, for healthcare. To me, doesn't really add up. It seems to me that that services could only deteriorate, and fairness could only deteriorate. I myself, believe it or not, am disabled. I don't look like that today. I have MS, but I have days when I'm not able to perform. I benefit from the carbon tax rebate. I benefit from good health care. I will benefit in the future from good education and not underfunding of our schools and universities. Could you tell me how, in reality, tax cuts are going to help any of this?
Thank you, Peter, for getting to the question at the end. I think that was addressed to you, Nathan.
I think so as well. Thank you, Peter, for that question. When it comes to things like the carbon tax and issues of tax within this country and within this province, everyone has to look at it in two ways. We can use taxes to try and change behavior, or we can lower taxes and encourage faster development through those lower taxes. Now, when it comes to the carbon tax, the issue is that it raises the price for everything. I'm really glad that you get a carbon rebate. I'm very glad for that. But the issue is that through that carbon rebate, you may be getting it, but a lot of other people are paying it. And that's an issue. That's an issue because those are people that could have been putting that money towards your services. Those are people who could have been spending that money mowing the lawn in front of your house or in front of the residence where you're at. That is money and dollars that our own provincial government spends on its own tax regarding education, regarding whenever a truck has to move on part of the provincial government. That's just ridiculous. And not only that, they're saying they're going to freeze carbon taxes on housing fuel. Well, that's not the only place that it hits Northern British Columbians. Not at all. And that's not fair to Northern British Columbians. We get hit with that tax all over the place. And so, yes, I'm sorry that you might not be getting that rebate anymore. But in general, it will improve the economy.
Shirley would like a minute.
Thank you. And in fact, Nathan, we're freezing the carbon tax in totality. There will be no future increases of the carbon tax for 5 years. And what I did say was that we created an exemption for Northern British Columbia when we created the carbon tax to actually accommodate the fact that we recognized, and I as a Northerner lobbied hard to ensure that there was that exemption on home heating fuel. It's a little more expensive to heat your home in Northern BC than it is in Vancouver. We created an exemption. And for persons who are vulnerable and have lower incomes, there are carbon tax rebates. That's true of income taxes in British Columbia as well. We have almost 500,000 people in British Columbia, 400,000 who pay no taxes, and we have 800,000 people who pay no MSP premiums. So we have been thoughtful and careful about how we care for those who are more vulnerable, while at the same time putting in place the lowest personal income tax rates in Canada.
Thank you. Sherry would also like to add a word.
So I just also like to make a statement around taxes, and certainly when you're talking about not increasing taxes or actually decreasing taxes, my red flag goes up, because I think that would definitely mean cuts to services, and particularly to services to those that are most vulnerable and who need it most. We've made a careful analysis. We've proposed some modest tax increases that will definitely create that revenue that supports those commitments that we've made in the platform. All of it is completely costed out. It's our fiscal framework. The platform was released about a week and a half, or in early April, a couple of weeks ago. And quite frankly, 98% of British Columbians will not see a single increase in their taxes. Those who can afford to pay their fair share should be paying their fair share. And when we say high income earners, that's those that are $150,000, have incomes of $150,000 or more. And they're not going to be taxed on.
Sorry about that. Thank you for looking. You can speak after the meeting. Would that be all right?
Absolutely.
I have a question here for all candidates on economic developments. What thoughts have you given to assist our region with economic development? What are your ideas? And shall we start with Nathan?
Economic development in the area of McBride and Valemount, in the Robson Valley, circles and centers, for the most part, on tourism. And we as the BC Conservatives understand that. In fact, thanks to the fact that I got an email from home base today, I have something to announce, an exclusive announcement for all of you. We are planning, and this will be announced tomorrow, over $10 million directed purely towards tourism in the north. This is to assist with branding. This is to assist with helping people get up those websites so that sledders and people on ATVs and hikers can get to Valemount and know where Valemount is, know what Valemount's about. That is what we are promising. That is what will be announced tomorrow. And I'm excited to be sharing that with you today. And that is, part of economic development in this community. Absolutely.
That's nice. And Sherry?
Yes, the initiatives that we've put forward that would support economic development in Valemount definitely center around the resource sector. I agree that tourism is part of our platform as well. We support the initiative around the glacier destination proposal, but forestry has always been the backbone of this community, and things were devastated when forestry took a downturn. The sawmill was closed. A week ago on Monday, Adrian Dix visited Prince George and presented his platform, which was a strong commitment to revitalization of the forestry sector. I know that community forests are also an important part of that, and we really want to look at more value-added opportunities in secondary manufacturing, using some of that waste wood, in being creative, because when we look at provinces like Ontario and Quebec who have strong secondary manufacturing in place, I mean, those are jobs. We want BC jobs for BC logs, and so that's a commitment. Reforestation and forest health is also a strong commitment that we've put forward. And the other commitment that I think that potentially has definite potential for Valemount is a commitment towards the film industry. As you know, British Columbia was called Hollywood North at one time, and because of changes in policy and because of taxation, that changed the attractiveness, and there was the economy as well, that changed the attractiveness to people coming from outside of Canada to come and film in BC. Adrian has gone to LA, come back, through our critic and through the development and consultation, we're pleased to be putting forward a strong commitment towards increased potential for film industry to be able to film in British Columbia and support that process, which also definitely is a viable economic initiative.
Thank you.
Thank
Shirley?
Thank you very much. And we have an absolutely spectacular part of the province that we live in, and obviously tourism needs to play a fundamental role in diversifying the economy. But I know this, that we worked very hard in partnership with the municipality, with the village council, and in fact we worked constructively with our federal MP, Kathy McLeod, to hold numerous meetings and opportunities in the Robson Valley, in Valemount. We have an economic pilot project in place, and this part of the province was chosen because we have work to do in terms of the economy. One of the things that rose to the top of the list, if you are going to develop industry and we want to have additional industry, we have to have a stable power source. As all of you would know, we've worked incredibly hard with BC Hydro to talk about upgrades to the substations so that we can actually have the kind of stable power we need to talk about Glacier Mountain development. There is so much possibility. It's going to take us hard work and continued partnerships, and I've been very proud of the constructive approach we've taken with Village Council, with First Nations, and with our federal counterparts to look at how we get the basics right. We need to make sure we have schools and healthcare facilities that actually attract the kind of investment that we need. So I would continue to work aggressively on the kinds of projects that we are just on the verge of seeing take place. It's taken a lot of work to bring the proposal that's before us to the next step of development. I'm very excited to have been a part of that.
I think Nathan wants to add. Thank you, Shirley.
I would just like it noted that I actually looked up my talking points on this today. And the issue is that I saw that it took 10 years of lobbying to even get that power grid started. 10 years. And you've been an MLA for 12 years. You say you care about the community. 10 years sounds like a very long time to me for something to go through that is $50 million worth of work. So first of all, it's short-term work. That's important. The second thing is that after putting us in a deficit of $62 billion, that's what it's expected to reach this year, it took 10 years of lobbying still. That's the math I'm seeing. I don't like this math. I hope you don't either.
We have a question. Sorry, Shirley?
I'm not sure I'm allowed a rebuttal or not.
Do we have a rebuttal of a rebuttal? Yeah, we'll allow you to do it.
Well, Nathan, I can just say this to you, that I have worked tirelessly on behalf of the Robson Valley, and that it has taken incredible partnership and effort to bring BC Hydro to the table. We've also had to grapple with a number of issues regarding independent power and how we bring those to the grid. So while it may seem like a long period of time to you in terms of lobbying, it has taken aggressive and productive work with numerous levels of government, large corporations. We're on the verge of the kinds of success that the Valemount and area deserve, and I will continue to work aggressively as I have every day for the past 12 years.